Hey, this is Lee Thurber, and I'm here today. I'll start over again. Hi, this is Lee Thurber, and I'm here today with Dan Nelson of Dancestors Genealogy. Dan is one of the most interesting guys I know, and he has a newsletter I love reading because it is filled with fun stories about his clients. Hey, Dan, how did you get into the genealogy business? What attracted you to that?
Well, I'd always basically had it as a hobby, probably for 20 years. And then one of the people that I would backpack with, it was a business friend, and he said, "Hey, would you do a book for my wife?" Actually, he said, "Would you research my wife's family?" And I thought, "Yeah, I'd be happy to do that for you," whatever. He says, "No, I want to pay you, and I want you to put it in a book." Well, that was sort of the, genesis of everything. And then I was still working my career job then, so I just did it for friends, people that I knew. But then when I retired, I took it full-time
How
work.
long, how long ago was that? When did you retire?
2018.
Okay. What kind of work did you do before?
I was division vice president for a national retail services, actually a worldwide retail services company. So like, for instance, our largest customer was Walmart, Dollar General, people like that. And we did inventory, merchandising, space mapping, merchandise utilization type work for them.
So how has the transition from a big corporate environment to being your own? I'm guessing you're a solopreneur. You don't actually have any employees right now, do you?
No, my wife works in the business, and I'm actually just bringing on my first contract employee to help. And my intention isn't to have a bunch of employees. Been there, done that, and the associated ups and downsides of that. So yeah, it's a small shop, and we still like to travel, but obviously with COVID, that's been greatly cut back. So I've sort of filled in the time with this, but I like to get back to that once we're safe to go journey.
Gotcha. So what does a typical engagement for research look like? I mean, what kind of, like, do you get a shoebox full of stuff, or, I mean, do people just go, "Hey, I don't know anything," or does it kind of range in between? I mean,
Range in between. So there are people that are adopted and they really don't know anything. They may have the name of a parent or parents. And then there's people that maybe know who their great grandparents is and not completely sure about that. But then there's people that say, "Hey, it was all researched by Aunt Edna. I just need you to take it and put a bow on it. Add to it what you could find, but basically, the framework is here, and just fill it in and put it in a book." Because so many people, there's been somebody in their family who's researched it, they got a copy, it got passed to them, it's in a box, they don't know what to do with it. So I call it putting a pretty bow on it and making it so it's something that doesn't get thrown away. It's something that can stay in the family that everybody can enjoy. And then there's people that just reach out and say, "I want you to see if you can get past my dead end ancestor." Those are smaller projects.
so how far back in time is it pretty easy to go? And at what point in historical timeline going backwards does it start to get tough?
Yeah, well, the further back you go, the tougher it gets because there's less information. I mean, you sort of have to get to 1940 before to really get started. But from 1940 to 1870, from 1940 is a pretty good area to work in. The censuses had a fair amount of detail in them, and you could tell relationships. 1860, 1850, you still had censuses with names of everybody, so you just had to figure out the relationships. Before 1850, it was just the head of household. So then if you want to figure out who family members were, you had maybe wills, deeds, Bible records, things like that. So the further back you go, and church records, the further back you go, the harder it is to sort of fill in some of those blanks. But till you go, you just don't know what you're going to find,
So at what point in time, I mean, do you also research and find things like newspaper clippings and photographs and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I subscribe to 3 different newspaper archive type subscription services. And those, most people wouldn't bother to do that if they were just researching their own because they can't really leverage it. So yeah, as we get the names of people, we go in and research to see if we can find stories and articles about them because that really rounds it out. I mean, it adds a lot of flavor. Sometimes there's pictures, sometimes they're not. And, you also have different subscription services cover different newspapers that cover different cities. Newspapers went in and out of business. There's some state resources for newspapers. So it's sort of, some of them are super easy to use and some are hard work, but they're worth it because you get that extra element.
What's the farthest back in time you were able to trace somebody's ancestry?
Well, in terms of me, actually being the person that sort of breaks through it, I would say probably 1500s. Typically to go beyond that, somebody else has already done the work. Somebody that would actually have to travel to Europe to do that work. And my clients, nobody's been willing to front me the dough to fly to Europe and research there. So, of course, the further back you go, you have more and more ancestors in common with other people. So the odds that somebody, one of those common ancestors has done some work goes up the further back you go. And
Okay.
hopefully we can take advantage of somebody else's work for our clients.
So, okay, so the question I just asked was how far back have you gone? But how far back have you been able to connect a client's family history? In other words, to one of those other research lines that have done the work.
Yeah, generally you can get into maybe the 1100. It starts to get theoretical. I mean, my wife, who her family history goes back a long ways, there's a theoretical line that goes to Adam and Eve. But obviously there's a lot of assumptions there. You have biblical support for that. You have royal records. But, you have things like Methuselah that lived 900 years. Well, if he didn't live 900 years, that's like 25 generations or more that you would have had to fill in. So there's some creative license to get there. It's sort of fun to look at, but, I certainly wouldn't, it's just entertainment at that point.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So how's business going? Are you staying busy? I mean, it sounds like you must be because you're hiring your first contract laborer. What is business like these days?
It's really busy right now. And the biggest, I've done a lot of different things with marketing and different ones, have had different effects. But the big one that sort of broke it open was I was featured in a local newspaper that is distributed in the upscale cities around due north of Dallas, Fort Worth. So, your Argyle, Flower Mound type demographics. And that article, by being in there, what it does, it's interesting with what I do because it's based on trust. People are basically inviting me into their family. And I always promise I won't show up for Thanksgiving. But you have this trust, and everybody sort of views it as like they have these great secrets that they have to protect or something like that. Reality is most of the secrets we've seen, I certainly haven't seen anything that would shock the world, kind of stuff. And, but, that's sort of a family thing. Oh, keep our dirty laundry from the world seeing it. And the fact that somebody had a out of wedlock child or fooled around or whatever in those families, particularly, great aunt Edna might find that offensive to, have that revealed. Most people nowadays, they know that stuff happened. And it's actually sort of more entertaining part of the character of the family to have some characters.
Some colorful characters, huh?
Yes, you don't want everybody to behave when you're working on family history. You want some people out there that raised a little ruckus.
So nobody's rewritten any history books as a result of your research yet, but you've added some color to the Thanksgiving conversations.
Yeah, that would be a pretty accurate description. I mean, you do find things that are not commonly known because you're looking at it from a much narrower view. But yeah, you're always, I mean, I had a client I'm working on right now, and she was surprised to find out how German she was. And I don't mean German like World War I, World War II. They came over basically when the King of France invaded Germany to take out a bunch of Protestants. So they hopped in boats over to England and then England said, "Oh, what are we gonna do with all these refugees?" Sound like a modern day problem, right? So they shipped the refugees to North America. So these Germans came here and anglicized their names so they could fit in. So she was sort of disappointed or surprised because she wanted this English heritage. Well, I finally got to an English line and I told her, well, you're just showing off now, because it turns out her 7th grade uncle is Robert Morris, who signed the Declaration of Independence and basically financed the Revolutionary War. So if you're going to have an English ancestor, that's a braggable one,
Yeah, absolutely.
She was
Well, I
pretty
guess
excited.
you're probably pretty popular, even though you promised not to show up at Thanksgiving dinners. I'm sure you'd probably be welcome because of all the great stories that you've got. So what's the future look like for your business? I mean, what is your plan? Are you happy at the size? You're going to kind of hold it where it is, or are you wanting to grow it? I mean, what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, well, I want to grow it effectively so I get to do more of what I like doing the best, and then stuff that other people like to do, they can do that. And, it's sort of a 2 + 2 = 5. So that's what I'm sort of trying to build as I go here. But, you've got the desire to travel again, and it's unclear on when that's going to happen. Figuring out effective marketing, figuring out if I can have effective contractor relationships, because when you hire a contractor, you don't want to have to manage them like a boss does, but you have to, meet deadlines, meet customer expectations through someone else. And so managing all that kind of stuff, you don't want to just trade, this burden for that burden kind of thing. We don't have to have the money, but it's nice to have it. So, it's not one of these deals, boy, if this doesn't work, we failed, we're screwed. I got to go get a job or something.
I've known a lot of people that have taken hobbies and turned them into businesses, and then all the joy goes out of the hobby for them because it's actually becomes work.
Right.
That hadn't happened to you yet, has it?
No, I still like it. I mean, there's and love it. There's parts that, aren't that much fun. For instance, if somebody owes money, there's no joy in chasing somebody down. I know they're going to pay in the end, but why should I have to chase them? So those kinds of pieces of the business world, are less fun. Trying to figure out all the new, you're a marketing guy, but figuring out all the new lingo and, so what? I made a lot of impressions. What does that mean in my bank? Kind of stuff, and trying to interpret that. I didn't go into business on my own because I'm a marketing whiz, and I just wanted a chance to show everybody that. So that kind of stuff's a little bit of headache, but the actual research, finding things other people haven't put together before, solving puzzles, making people happy. I mean, that's the cool thing. In the business I was in before, yes, we made people happy in the sense we met a business need that if we didn't meet it, they would not be able to operate. But now people are happy. I mean, you bring this joy, tears and comments of elation and talking about their family sitting together, Christmas, looking through the book, all these great Norman Rockwell scenes you create for modern day families. And you really, you help bond that family. I don't mean, you take a dysfunctional one and you make them functional, but you move the two closer together. And in some ways, you almost feel bad that there's families that can't take advantage of that or choose not to, because it's such a unique thing. I've never had anybody say, boy, after we did it, we wish we hadn't.
I'm wondering when you're going to launch as a screenwriter your first series for the television, which I'm thinking would be something like Real Histories of American House Lives or something like that. You've got so many great stories. If you were to just sort of change the names to protect the innocent, you could probably create some pretty good content. Has that ever occurred?
Well, I actually do the radio show every Saturday, and I share stories there. And yes, I may use the names, but they're so far back they couldn't be connected to a modern person. Of course, the gal that hosts the show, she's really good, Ashley Burgess, but she's a therapist. So she doesn't really want me to bring depressing stuff. Well, what are most of the stories? People getting killed and violence and, the Indians attacking, whatever. So I have to work harder to get stories for her. I actually have a first cousin, who is a pretty successful Hollywood screenwriter. So I've talked to him at times. He's not really into the history thing, but I've fronted stories to him and said, if patriotism ever comes back in as a theme, the Revolutionary War, Civil War type stuff, that, here's some good material for you to work with. Of course, he gets tons of scripts all the time, and you got to work through them, and you do have to work with themes. And so if I chose to do that, I'd actually have connections, but so far I haven't figured out how to go down that road.
Well, I think what you do is real interesting, folks. I'm just going to tell you right now. I get, like you. I get way too many newsletters, but I get one every couple of weeks from Dan Nelson that is worth the read. I kind of look forward to it because it is a fun one to read. So I'm presuming, Dan, that if they just go to your website, you got a link they can just click on that'll allow them to get on your newsletter list, right?
Yeah, all they got to do is put their name and their email, and it pops through and subscribes them. And if somebody doesn't like it or gets tired of it or gets too much stuff, then they can always unsubscribe. But it comes out generally every 2 weeks on Saturday. I did more of it during the thick of the COVID because, first of all, I felt people needed to know things, and one of the things that the expression that history repeats itself is true. And I think some people can find comfort in the fact that we've been down this road before. Yeah, it was different, but we didn't all die. We figured it out. Society, made its way through, and we will again. How it looks, and for some people it'll be less pleasant, some people more pleasant. But I think that perspective helps. And we went right from COVID into the racial struggles. Well, lots of that in history that I could bring forth information for people to know about. So, and my wife's really good at, coming up with different ideas and stuff. Like she was talking about catfishing on the internet. Well, basically a phenomenon like that used to occur. Of course, it wasn't called that in history. And she said, well, you should tie one of your articles to that, because people think, oh, that's new, that people go out there and basically mess with people sort of for fun or whatever. Well, no, it's not new. It's just a new way of doing it. So
yeah, nothing new under the sun. Everything's been tried and done. It is just a new twist or a new angle, right?
Yeah, and just the fact that there's the speed of communication is so great. So if you did something brilliant or stupid in 1882, it was going to take a while before everybody knew how brilliant or stupid you were. Go back to 1600s, it could take a lifetime before anybody knew, how brilliant you were. So that's really what's changed.
Yeah.
And then there's always been trust and mistrust with information and news, but now there's like a whole industry of creating mistrust to a great degree. So it's hard for people to know, what will be history, because what really happened,
Right. All right. Dan, you have one of the most interesting professions that I have come across in a long time. And folks, if you want to plug in, just go to Dancestorsgenealogy.com. There will be a link and a phone number, both at the beginning and the end of this email, this video, as well as whatever page it's pasted onto. So you should have no trouble finding Dan. Dan, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lee. And we're just out there trying to help people preserve their stories.